Hello YouTube, it's Accurate again, back with another video from the home studio. And today, let's talk about the latest news from Native Instruments, the fact that they have now announced this one. The latest version of the Maschine hardware, it's called Maschine Plus. It's totally standalone and really cool. This is just a beta version of it that I got to borrow from Native Instruments for testing, but still, let's talk about it.
Accurate Beats.
Alright, so first of all, I want to be super clear on the fact that I'm not going to do a deep dive into everything that is Maschine Plus in this video. I've already gotten a lot of really good questions from you guys, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as possible in the future. But for now, it just doesn't really feel fair because it's a beta testing unit. Sure, the hardware is kind of identical to what we're going to see in the retail version, but you know, it just doesn't run the same version of the software, it's not updated, and it doesn't come with all the content that we're going to see in the retail version. I should be getting my fully updated version in a few days or so, and I'm going to cover it here on the channel with reviews and comparisons between this one and the MPCs and stuff like that. But for now, the hype is real. People are posting things left and right, both on YouTube and Instagram and social media in general. But, you know, I seem to be one of the few fortunate ones to actually have borrowed a testing unit from Native Instruments. And yeah, I'm just not ready to judge it in the state that it's in right now. But first of all, let me just run through some of the questions that people seem to have and don't really understand about Maschine Plus. The first thing is that it doesn't come with a built-in battery inside of it, no matter what people seem to say online. I can tell you for a fact, it doesn't have a built-in battery. The size of Maschine Plus is pretty much 100% identical to the size of this one, the standard full-size Maschine MK3 controller. So I don't know if it's just a matter of not having enough space to put a battery in there, or if it's something else. All I can say is that Maschine Plus doesn't have a battery. So it's not super huge and it's not super heavy, and it works standalone totally without being connected to a computer. Is it really a portable device though, since you have to connect it to some sort of power source? I don't know, one might argue about that, but I've ran the Maschine Plus on my external battery bank from Omnicharge and everything worked just fine. I've done the same thing with the MPC-1 and the MPC Live, and I don't know if it's recommended by these manufacturers, but to me it has worked so far. But yeah, I agree with everyone who's saying that it's unfortunate that it doesn't have its own battery built into it. It would be really nice to see, and I would love that too, but unfortunately Maschine Plus doesn't have it. I also want to add this in real quick. People are asking me if this is compatible with third-party plugins like VSTs and stuff in standalone mode. And the short answer there is no, that's not doable. It's not what it is. When Native Instruments are talking about plugins here, we are talking about the Native Instruments plugins that it is compatible with. Stuff like Monarch and Massive and stuff. That's in here and that works in standalone mode, but it's not compatible with everything that you might have since before. It does have some sort of computer running inside of it, but it's not like you can load up an instance of Nexus in the standalone version and get the graphical interface on the monitors and all the knobs assigned to the right functions. That's not a reality at all right now. It is compatible with the plugins that it comes with, and hopefully we're going to see this expand somewhat in the future, but I don't really know anything about that right now. So yeah. Now let's get back.
Accurate Beats.
What it does have though, at least from my own testing with this one, is the same workflow that we all know and love from Maschine MK3. I sampled some stuff into it, I chopped it up and I sequenced it together with some drums and a bass line and some sort of synth sound on top of it as well. And as far as that functionality goes, this one feels just like the MK3 does. It's responsive, it's snappy, it's fast, and the workflow is exactly the same. Again, I don't want to talk too much about the content that the retail version will come with, because that's going to be way more than I have in this one, and I just haven't gotten around to test all of that stuff myself. I also put this quick little 4-bar loop together using just the internal instruments and synthesizers that's built into this version of Maschine Plus. So that's using a few different instances of Massive and Reactor, the ROM reverb and some sidechaining compression, and most of the stuff that I tend to work with normally if I'm not just using samples. I tried to push the CPU usage a little bit, but I didn't really stumble upon any issues there. And again, this is just a beta version. The retail version might be upgraded internally somehow from this one, I'm not sure. So let's take a look at the hardware here, and all I can say about the hardware on Maschine Plus right now is that it's really similar to everything that you got in the Maschine MK3 controller. This is my MK3 controller, and it still holds up kind of nicely, even though some of the knobs has become, just as responsive as before, but they're just a lot easier to turn and the resistance in the knobs just isn't there anymore. And I'm not sure how much upgraded that is on the Maschine Plus, but it definitely feels different, especially compared to my old MK3. All the knobs has the same nice and even resistance to them, and they're really nice to turn. And most of the stuff on the faceplate that used to be plastic is now metal instead. That's a nice touch. Maschine Plus also has 2 new USB-A connections on the back for connecting stuff like MIDI keyboards or external hard drives. And since it's now standalone, it also comes with this nice SD card slot on the left side of it. It comes with a 64GB SD card from the get-go, so that's cool. It has also been tested and is compatible with SD cards up to 1 terabyte, so that's a lot of data. I'm gonna leave the technical specifications of the Maschine Plus right here. Basically, it has a quad-core computer inside of it with 4 gigs of RAM and a bunch of storage and stuff. I'm not an expert on stuff like that myself. I've only had this beta testing unit to test it out, and so far I haven't ran into any bigger issues with the performance of the device itself. But again, I'm not 100% sure that my beta version is running the same kind of system. I would think so, but I'm not sure. Now, I also want to mention that when I'm working on my beats inside of Maschine, normally, I don't look at my computer screen at all. I try to avoid that as much as possible and just live inside of Maschine as it is. And working on Maschine Plus, that's kind of similar to Maschine MK3 in every sense of the word, but it's standalone. It's not even connected to the computer over USB or something like that. It is a really nice feeling to be able to do that and know that even though I might be in my studio right now because we're maybe not going out as much now as we did before, it just feels like I'm making music with this instrument more than a tool for my computer. Even though it's kind of the same, but it's just a bit different. Now, I know that people have some issues about the pricing of the Maschine Plus, and yeah, it's not on the cheaper side, but considering what we're getting for that money in terms of content with the Maschine expansions that are compatible with this one, except from a few of them, I think. We get Massive as a standalone thing that's working as it is, FM8, Reactor Prism, Monarch, Retro Machines, the drum synth, the bass synth, and all the factory content that it comes with. I don't know, is it too expensive? It might be, it might not be. I haven't really decided yet. I need to have the full retail version and actually do a review to be able to decide whether I think it's worth it or not. And as I said, I'm gonna compare it to the MPCs, and considering that the MPC 1 is kind of half the price of this one, but Maschine Plus comes with more and probably better content. I don't know, the touchscreen on the MPCs makes some stuff easier, but sometimes the workflow on Maschine is a little bit faster, at least to me. I don't know, but I definitely hope that I'm gonna have a proper answer to this question further down the line. But right now, yeah, it's a lot of money, and compared to other stuff, I'm trying to not be biased here, even though I've used Maschine since the first one came out. Right now, I just guess I'm too excited about this one to be able to think straight and determine whether it's worth it or not. And still, I'm not using the retail version. Now let me try to give you a bit of a sneak peek into my mind when it comes to my problems and issues, gripes, or at least worries about Maschine Plus. I'm in touch with people who's working with NI, and they're giving me reports about what they're working on and what they're trying to improve with Maschine Plus. One of the things that I feel is a little bit worrying right now is that the browsing system doesn't really work for the stuff that you put into the SD card yourself. There are ways to save your own sounds and samples into an SD card in a specific folder, in a specific structure, and then access that in the hardware standalone version of it. But as far as I understand right now, that's not as easily accessible as the rest of the browser, and it might be a bit of an issue when it launches, or it might have been addressed by then, or it's going to be addressed in a future update. So that's something that I guess they're gonna fix, but right now it kind of worries me a little bit. I want to be able to have access to all my different samples and sounds and drum kits and effects and stuff that I put on my SD card, or an external hard drive connected to the unit, or whatever like that. I don't want to blow it up because I think that's going to be addressed somehow, but at least I just feel like I should mention it in this video. Now on to my next problem. And that is that some of the editing functionality becomes kind of troublesome when you don't have a mouse and keyboard to do it. I think Akai did a smart thing there with the touchscreens that enables you to have more access to editing stuff more easily, even though I still have a problem with using touchscreens in my workflow like that, but that's just me. Editing stuff like automation lanes or MIDI notes or stuff like that is definitely a little bit more tricky on the standalone version of Maschine Plus than in like the software of Maschine. On the other hand, Maschine Plus still works as a controller for the Maschine software if you choose to hook it up to a computer, but I'm talking in standalone mode. It might be a little bit of an issue to edit your stuff like manually and get into those finer adjustments of just moving a single hi-hat, you know, back or forth. It's not impossible, but it's not super intuitive or fast either. And I know that everyone's not like me with this, but at least for my workflow, say that I have something like that, then I'm not super happy about the placement of a single hi-hat. Normally I tend to just delete the entire pattern and record it all over again, just to keep it natural and to keep it flowing. That just is more inspiring to me than to go into the editing and just edit fine details like that. It's a lot easier on the MPCs than on Maschine, but that's kind of my workflow, both for the MPCs and the Maschine. So I don't think that's a big thing for me, but it's definitely a difference that's worth considering if you're doing a lot of stuff like that. And that's about it for this video. I'm just scratching the surface a little bit here of everything that is Maschine Plus. As I said, I'm gonna release way more videos about this one in the future as soon as I get my proper one. So stick around and subscribe to the channel for stuff like that if you're into it. And if you have anything specific you want to know about Maschine Plus, just go ahead and leave the comments and questions in the comment field below on this video. I'm reading through everything, even though I don't always have time to go in and reply to everything that's there. We all have different questions and things we want to know, so yeah, just leave comments down below. I think this is really cool. I think Maschine MK3 was a really good product, and I've used it a lot for all of the stuff that I do. And now it's finally becoming standalone, and it's not becoming weird in a way that we kind of have to relearn a lot of stuff. The workflow is the same, the unit looks kind of exactly the same. So it's everything that I love from Maschine MK3, but now it's standalone. How cool is that? We're done here. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until then, ha det gott!
Accurate beats.